All right, so a lot of you guys have asked online, how do you build a track sled? Where do I start? What tools do I need? Can I just use square tubing? What kind of sled can I use? I'm gonna answer all those questions for you guys as quickly as possible so you can get through this video. I'll also show you guys a couple different things with my track sled. This is the second one that I've built now. The first one was a Polaris Indy. Unfortunately, with that one, I had an extra 12 tunnel and a 10 skid. So it was a bit of a mission. I had to re-rivet some of the holes for the skid to mount back in and push it back so that the track would fit. But that's all well and fine. That turned out to be a wicked tank. This year I'm using a 1980 Citation. It's a centered engine, which is kind of sweet. So the shaft's lifted up off of the tunnel. Definitely makes handling a little easier for sure. So I've got a paper here as well. Track sled build, all the steps that I went through. Hopefully it's some value to you guys. If you like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It definitely it goes a long way for sure in helping me make more of these videos. So the first thing I started off with was obviously finding a sled. You can use whatever sled that you want. I see a lot of people using Polaris Indies, and whether you have your engine off to the side with your sprocket to the side, you can still do that. You could even set up pillow block bearings as well so that you could center your engine. So you'd center your engine on your tunnel, you set up pillow block bearings with an extra shaft, runs chain here, you have a sprocket on the end that runs a chain to your sprocket along the side, and that's how you get that done. I wanted to choose a Citation. I didn't want extra jack shafts or anything. I'm trying not to. So I got that. First thing that I did was I cut the aluminum trim, so around the sides, so where you put your feet on the sled. I cut that so you got about 2 inches left. And a lot of people ask, like, why do you cut that? Why do you even bother? Well, I don't want a bunch of shit hanging off the side, and I leave 2 inches for integrity because you don't want that to start folding inwards, right? So that's what I did first. Take skid out and weld bars and shock suspension. So my sled was pretty old with the shock, so I got the advice from one of my buddies. He drilled a hole through his shock. It was old. Didn't think there was gas in there. There wasn't. So I ended up doing the same. Ended up working out fine. Decompressed the shock and then welded it in place. Put a bar. Just some steel tubing, 1-inch square tubing. And then for the front near the limiter strap, I also took another bar and I welded that. So when I put that back in, I grabbed a ratchet strap and I compressed it a bit more, and I got it to, what was it, 6.5 inches from ground to the tunnel at the back, and then 7.5 inches from ground to tunnel up at the front, so you got a little bit of a lift. Prep skid and tunnel for paint and put it all back together. Next thing that I did was, you want a frame, so you still want some good integrity for your tunnel. So what a lot of people use is 1-inch square tubing to make a subframe pretty much, and you're bolting that to your tunnel. Now before you put it back together, this is also what I did. I ended up just bolting my subframe to the tunnel before I put it all back together. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. I got an engine plate weld bars, handlebars, paint, mount engine and torque converter. Install sprocket, chain, throttle cable. All right, so there's different chain options that you guys can go through as well with this. Personally, I like using a bit thicker of a chain. I use a number 40 chain. So if you get a 40 chain, you're gonna want a number 40 sprocket with a 1/2 inch pitch. You can get those online if you're in Canada. You can order from a metal shop, whether you get it fabricated or you can go to Princess Auto, and you can order the hubs and the sprocket for way cheaper. Your torque converters, whether you want an actual Comet clutch, you can do that, but personally I've used ones off of Amazon. I just get an extra primary clutch just in case. Normally you get 3 extra belts with the torque converters as well. So whether you're running 8 horsepower or less, you're going to want a 30 series torque converter. And remember, when you're installing this, it's not like a go-kart. So you're swapping it around because it's front drive, not rear drive, right? So you want to make sure you get that correct. Your belts, make sure you have the flat side on the right side, because a lot of people will put the angled side along the back side and they wonder why they have problems. Now on Amazon, I've noticed the past year and a half with these torque converters that they're starting to put in the imperial and metric bolts for these packages, so you have them and you don't have to go get another one or an extra one from Canadian Tire or wherever from your hardware store, which is really nice. There's no guessing or wondering anything like that. What else here for the torque converters? I think that pretty much, oh no, actually, if you go with a bigger engine, so people are always saying like, why don't you use a bigger engine? Well, you don't want a Skidoo engine on there, or just go out and buy a Skidoo. You know, the point of this is simplicity, lightweight, something you can maneuver, and you're not maneuvering shit with a Skidoo engine on top of your track sled, especially cutting that front part off. There's no way. You might get it on and you might go straight and tilt it. Like, I'm sure you can make it work, but it's going to be a pain in the ass, especially if it tilts. You can go just a bit above the 212 or 224 cc engines and go for, say, like the 13 horsepower Honda engine, and in that case you'd use a 40 series torque converter. So anything pretty much 8 horsepower and above, you're going to be looking at a 40 series torque converter, and you can also get that on Amazon, or you can order it from Comet, and they're more expensive, but it's up to you to decide which one you prefer. My last one didn't have brakes. This one has a brake set up. I haven't set it up yet. I haven't really needed it. When you're on the track sled, like, unless you got a lot of hills and you need to stop halfway or something, a lot of the time when you let go of your throttle, your track sled's going to slow right down anyways. So for the throttle and throttle cable, I went onto Amazon and I got a 121 inch brake cable. That's the only place I could find something long enough, so I used that. I've got the new Hyundai 224cc engine as well. For my throttle, instead of twist throttle or thumb throttle, I wanted a brake lever, so I ended up using that, and instead of having the whole lever, I ended up cutting that probably 3/4 off, so I got a finger throttle. I personally like it. It's up to you to decide what you want. What else here? Get yourself a good engine plate. the first one that I made, it wasn't thick enough and it folded, and it was not good as well. Like, so you want a good engine plate, and you want good bolts and nuts for that. Like, get yourself some lock nuts and some Loctite, the red stuff, and make sure she's down. Center the engine. Other than that, it covers a lot of this stuff. With your sprockets, so another big question for your ratios. You're trying to figure out your ratios, right? So you're probably going to want something anywhere from, like, personally, a 7 to 1 final ratio to up to 8, all depending on how much torque and speed that you want, right? So my first sled was, I think it was like 7.6 or 7.7, something like that, final ratio. Over this one I wanted just a little more speed, and I still got lots of torque with this track sled as well, so I've got mine dialed in at 7 to 1 for my final ratio. You can calculate all of this if you go on to bmicarts.com. There's a calculator on there. So what you'll do is you'll put your first sprocket, your one running from your small engine, which would more than likely be a 10 tooth, leading to your next sprocket, which on mine I ordered a 34 tooth sprocket. And then it'll go into your chain case sprockets, so those two down there. So you type in your small one and then your big one. I can't remember what my smaller one is. I think it's like 18, and then my bigger one at the bottom, I think is 36. Maybe it's 33. Yeah, I think it's 33. Sorry. So yeah, you type that in, but you can play with your second number. So you got your 10, your second number. Play with that number a bit to dial in your final ratio. It'll be maybe a little harder if you're using a jack shaft, because it only has like 4 options on there. But if you're not running a jack shaft, I would advise BMI carts. What else here? Mount engine plate, your handlebars. So for your tow hitch, I used a door hinge. I didn't want to go out and spend a bunch of crazy money on like a big hitch or snowmobile hitch or something like that. So I just went out to Canadian Tire personally. I got one of those triangular door hinges. I bolted twice onto my tunnel for the one side, and then the other side moves freely up and down because you're going to be going along hills over little snow mounds and that, right? So you want it to be able to maneuver. So that's what I used, simple cotter pin, to get that through your sled tow bar. You want a good tow bar as well. Don't get me wrong, everyone who builds it, including myself, we all want to test that, and don't get me wrong, like, I still use it as backup, 1-inch square tubing piece of bar like that. But you want stability when you're out on the lake, especially if it's just glare ice and little patches of snow. You're going to be sliding everywhere as it is. So if your track sled's shifting a little, your sleigh with just one single bar, you're going to be swaying like the wind. So personally, I advise invest in a tow bar. They got them at Canadian Tire sometimes on sale for around $49, I think, to $100, depending on what size that you want. But that'll give you good stability when you're riding out and things like that. One thing that I didn't mention earlier is flipping your track. So when you get your track, I was advised when I was building tracks that I'd watch videos as well. But personally, I found flipping your track right around, flip it around backwards there, and you'll get better traction. When you're cutting your tunnel, up at the front. Don't leave that big block in front of the track. Expose that. So cut up so your track's exposed. So when you hit that snow mound, it wants to crawl up. It doesn't want to go down into the snow. Made that mistake and fixed that pretty quick. Other than that, that's pretty much for like if you're using a tunnel from a skidoo, whatever you want to use. There's people out there, I haven't personally made one yet, but there's lots of people who have, just by using square tubing. So you're pretty much making your frame, and then you're putting plates along the side to be able to hold your skid and your belt shaft, as well as a bearing for the front, and then it'd lead to your sprockets on top and so on and so forth. There's lots of videos online that you can check out for things like that, but I'll try and put a video together and go over some of this stuff as well.